I've been a pretty dedicated gamer for most of my life, but for whatever reason, the Witcher games always fell on deaf ears for me. I'm not sure if this is because they released on the game banger years of 2007 and 2011, or maybe it's because the second Skyrim released, the Greybeards just shouted every other game out of existence for me. Or maybe it's because The Witcher places such a strong emphasis on alchemy, and I had no interest in that in all of Skyrim, no matter how much Ninroot was begging for my attention the whole game. I wasn't really excited for The Witcher until The Witcher 3. And the reason I got excited was the trailers, starting with killing monsters.
Tough hunt.
Tougher than yours, that's certain.
This trailer might be the most concise, goosebump-inducing trailer I've ever seen in my life. It just captured everything we need to know about Geralt, The Witcher, and what kind of dark, unbalanced world we'd be stepping into. And that line...
What are you doing?
Killing monsters.
The soundtrack blast again. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I got hard. And then in the next trailer, the gameplay trailer, they actually showed us gameplay that matched up to the hype of the cinematic trailer, which happens, I don't know, 1 out of 100 trailers nowadays. And then, when you thought the hype couldn't get any more powerful, they released a Night to Remember trailer, which is still like the highest quality trailer I've ever seen in my life, made in 2014. You're telling me these characters aren't just real people? This is CGI? The animators that worked on this better be working on the next 7 Avatar movies. And the lullaby of woe playing in the background, this simple children's song, that's not about the monsters that are stalking you in the night, it's about the Witcher who's hunting them. But enough nostalgia. A Night to Remember was not just another trailer, but in fact the launch trailer for The Witcher 3, and most of us began no-lifing the hell out of the game that day. And I think most of us would agree, it's gone down in history as one of the most remarkable video games ever made. So why am I talking about The Witcher 3 in 2023? Well, you probably guessed it, the next-gen update just came out. And before I say anything, I gotta mention this is a free update. And I have good and bad things to say, but before I go shitting all over something, I wanna mention that we got this for free from the Red Team, and I'm grateful. So what do we get with this update? Well, we got some awesome stuff that works well with the game, and then we got some other awesome stuff that works well with the game in theory. And then there's some other stuff that I think they could have easily added into the game, but they didn't. But this is a free update, and I'm grateful.
So let's start with the graphical improvements. There's higher resolutions of nearly every asset in the game. There's a foliage overhaul. There's new, better textures. Interesting side note that you probably already heard. CD Projekt Red actually reached out to some of the community modders and used their textures in-game and paid them for their work. There's also higher facial detail of like every NPC in the game. There's higher mesh level of detail. Basically, things look better at longer distances and pop-in should be less apparent. And there's upgraded sky and weather effects, which sound small, but something like fog can really make things look cool. Like this! That's cool. The next gen update looks beautiful, and with what I've mentioned so far, it runs beautifully. At this point in the game, my computer runs the game at a 2K resolution, 16:9, with Ultra Plus settings turned all the way on at around 80 to 120 frames per second. Now I consider that well optimized and makes sense for the equipment that I own, which is an RTX 3060, an i7 13700K processor, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and a 49-inch ultra-wide monitor. Which doesn't really have anything to do with my performance, I just wanted to mention how big my monitor was. But the game could technically look even better with the next gen update's hottest new feature, ray tracing. The gaming industry's favorite new buzzword. And don't get me wrong, there's valid reason for the hype around ray tracing, but it does come at a cost. And for The Witcher 3 especially, it comes at a heavy, painful, game-breaking cost. For most of us. Just in case you don't know, ray tracing is a lighting technique where your GPU can track or trace where light rays are going in a scene to create much more realistic lighting and shadow effects in-game. Do you ever get those videos on your recommended page that are like GTA 5 ultra realistic mods plus ray tracing GTX 6090 f***ing 10,000 plus mod install, you go watch this. Well, ray tracing has a lot to do with why those videos look so good. Now in The Witcher, this can really affect how certain scenes look. I've always felt like The Witcher's base shadow color is a little too cool, and not like the Fonz, but like the hue. And not hue neutron, but like hue color temperature. Everything dark is just blue, like it's being lit by the moon even during the day. Ray tracing can correct this by factoring the color of the light source, how far away it is, where the shadows will appear, and what hues are created by the light bouncing off of surfaces and onto surrounding objects. AKA, nature scenes are gonna look a lot less cool and a lot more poop brownish, which is cool. Poop is cool. A blatant example of ray tracing's effects is anytime you get near one of these grates. I mean, look at the difference. What, did you turn the shadows off? I hate myself. Tunnels are another really good example, and anywhere darkness should be in real life, there should be darkness there in the game, like ceilings or my mind. Ray tracing can have a substantial effect on some scenes, but on the contrary, you'd be surprised at how many scenes have little to no visual impact with ray tracing turned on. And like I said at the beginning, it comes at a cost. A heavy, painful, game-breaking cost. For starters, the second you turn on ray tracing, expect to lose half or more of your frame rate per second. And playing The Witcher 3 on 40 frames per second is brutal. And I'm being generous with that. If anything remotely exciting happens on screen, I get like 20 to 30 frames at best.
I mean, obviously I can't play the game at 25 frames. What am I on, the Xbox 360?
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, there's somebody there.
And that's just the start with ray tracing problems. There's also flickering and visual bugs. There's blatant LOD changes based on your proximity. There's these really annoying things called shader comp stutters, where the game basically freezes for a second and then fast forwards through multiple frames. It sounds subtle and it's annoying. And then there's a bunch of smaller things like ray tracing doesn't really affect hair well, like it doesn't match the environment or Geralt's lore. Now, I don't have the most powerful machine in the world, but from the tests I've seen online, dudes with much bigger graphics cards than me, big black graphics cards, are also running ray tracing like shit in this game. Maybe they'll get around 60 frames a second on a 1080p resolution, but I don't see anybody kicking this game's ass. Like, I definitely want to upgrade my system at some point, but I'm not sure if I want to spend $500 on a new CPU and $2,000 on a new GPU just to play The Witcher 3 at 50 frames a second. But here's where things get a little weird. A lot of games today utilize ray tracing, and most PCs seem to run those games well. Like, take the new Spider-Man, for example. So I was curious, like, what the hell's going on with The Witcher 3 then? And I can give you my best guess after doing a considerable amount of research, but here's the thing. I'm not a game engineer and I'm kind of a moron. So I might be wrong and I might have to pin a comment to the top of this video correcting the things I'm about to say. That being said, it looks like the main issue is that the workload that's being sent to your processor is being unevenly distributed between the CPU cores that communicate to your GPU cores that visually display your game. Basically, the game is having a hard time letting all your CPU cores get a word into your GPU. They're all talking over each other and the GPU is like, hang on. You want me to draw you having sex with a witch on a stuffed unicorn near candlelight? Let me wrap my head around this. And I think the trouble begins with DirectX 12, which is an API, application programming interface, and The Witcher was originally made with DirectX 11. Games built with DirectX 11 only used to be able to utilize one of your CPU cores to communicate with your thousands of GPU cores. With DirectX 12, you can now utilize all of them, usually 4 to 8. That amount of processing power allows for new technologies to be added in. Enter ray tracing. But here's the problem. The Witcher 3 was built with DirectX 11 from the ground up, and most games that run ray tracing are built with DirectX 12 from the ground up, allowing developers to test ray tracing's performance all the way through game development. I'm reaching the limits of what I know as a non-game developer, but I imagine updating your game to the next API and then ramming ray tracing down its throat has got to be a minefield of performance issues. But I don't know, that's just a theory. A game theory.
Moving past graphics, we also got new armor sets, one that looks cool, one that looks like Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai, and then there's another set from the Witcher Netflix series that actually comes with a full quest line that's much shorter than I thought it was gonna be. In the new update, we also get photo mode, which I used for pertinent research to finally figure out,
Is that her nipple or not?
Is that any way to greet him?
Right there. There.
Unfortunately, my research came to an abrupt halt because CD Projekt Red put a sensor on any time you zoom into somebody's private parts.
This is for research, exactly. We're basically NASA. What the hell was that? It just started turning red when I started heading towards his crotch. Whoa, is it actually a sensor? So if you did this, maybe I could like come at it from a different angle. It's actually a sensor. That's crazy.
No, they didn't do that. I just ran into a really conveniently timed bug, and yeah, her tits are totally out of the whole game. It's wild. One of my favorite new updates is quick casting, where instead of using the wheel now, you can just select your spells by holding down a trigger and activating them that way. There's a few new camera angles, which I like the new one for exploration, but it's a huge disadvantage during combat, and then I wouldn't dare use the close camera on Roach because you need all the help you can get while riding Roach. There's new filters on the map, which is a great addition, except for the fact that I still have to guess where the barbershop is every time I go to Novigrad, and there's smaller quality of life improvements like the fall height has been extended, so no longer is the #1 cause of death for Witchers gravity.
Let's just do it. What is wrong with this game?
Now I appreciate what they've added. Once again, it's free. I'm grateful. but I do think they left a lot on the table that could have been addressed this update. And yes, I'm aware that there's modding solutions for most of what I'm about to say. The number one thing I wish they added, and I'm blown away that they didn't catch this while making quick casting, is a way to do quicker oils. I can't tell you how infuriating it is that every single fight I get into, I have to pause the menu, go to the inventory, turn a page over, find my oil, select it, equip it to my blade, back out, and back out again. That's at least 10 button presses to apply one fucking oil to your blade every single fight. It seems like the sign wheel is pretty much redundant now, so why couldn't we replace the signs in the wheel with frequently used oils? And then maybe if we held the trigger while in the wheel, it switches to bombs that you can use. The next thing I wish they added, which being a customization freak, I wish they added capes and hoods into the game. Every cinematic and most of the art in the game, Geralt's wearing a cloak. And some of you may be thinking, well, it's kind of hard to make a whole cloaks and physics system. It's already in the game. Look at Yennefer. She's got a cloak. It's badass. Give me one. And I've also seen mods put this into the game and it looks fantastic. And then more hairstyles would have been nice, but I understand that there's a good bit of modeling that goes into that. And then previews for those hairstyles before we buy them would be nice. And then while we're on the subject of previews for buying armor would be nice. There's sometimes where I buy armor that's blue in the picture and then I put it on and it's a fucking green tunic. What the hell is that? And then I've seen really nice quality of life improvements like the better food mod, where if you run out of your good food, it puts the next best food in its place, instead of eating the 900 waters that are in your inventory.
So I kind of want to talk about The Witcher 3 as a whole now, because before I made this video, I went on Twitch and rebeat the entire game on Death March, just trying to impress my stream, it's not a big deal. And it took a long time, like over 60 hours. It was a fun time and definitely an interesting experience coming back to the game. There's a lot that makes this game phenomenal, but it's definitely not without fault. That's why there's a red background right now. This is where I talk about the bad parts of the game. And I'm definitely going to talk about the good parts, but I want to get the bad out of the way first. By the way, you may totally disagree with some of the points that I'm about to make, and that's totally fine. This is just my perspective, and that perspective is kind of going in blind to The Witcher 3 without knowing anything about The Witcher 1 and 2 or the books. I didn't read the books. I don't read in general. The first thing I want to talk about is the storytelling, which in a lot of cases they do beautifully. There's plenty of intriguing characters and memorable quest lines that are burned into my brain, and there's even some good humor in it.
1 oink for yes, 2 for no. Got it?
But as far as the main quest line, is it that good? Parts of it definitely are, like the Bloody Baron is awesome, but I've beaten this game twice now, almost 3 times because I bought it on Switch for $60. Nintendo, why do you just screw us on every price of a video game? And I've played over 200 hours of the game, and I'm still pretty confused at what's going on there. I'm mainly talking about Ciri and the Wild Hunt. I still have a ton of questions that I feel like should have been answered during the storyline. Like I kind of get the prophecy of Ciri and her elder blood, but like, I don't even know who Ciri's mother is in the game. I know the Emperor is her father, and he doesn't have magical powers. So, another thing is, I can't tell you a single main villain character besides Aridin, who I kept calling Elrond, Hubbard, the entire game because I barely interact with him. And the other main villains of the Wild Hunt that I fought, I'm sure they have backstories and lore, but they all come off as blank, masked henchmen that all dress the same as Aridin and every other Wild Hunt member, which did hurt main story beats, by the way. There was times where I didn't know that the main villain in the game was in the same room as me because they all wear skull masks. And there's something that really let me down with the Wild Hunt is in the trailers and the opening cinematics of the game, they look like this freaking tsunami of evil magical warriors. But the second you start fighting them in game, you realize they're like the easiest characters to kill in the game, and they immediately lose their sense of unbeatable power. Even the bosses are simple. Besides one. There was one that my hitbox was just all over the place during this fight. I did not get angry. I got tired of it.
I can almost guarantee you I'm not gonna die fighting this next guy. Damn it.
Piece of filth. I'm here alone.
I mean, oh my gosh, I just want to see that f***ing instant replay. Oh my god. I'm glad I have one challenging fight in this game. Dude. Found out his secret. Heck yeah.
I just feel like the game didn't catch me up to who and why I should care about the Wild Hunt, whereas they did a good job with a lot of main allies in the game, like Yennefer, Triss, and, you know, Domino. What's the guy's name? Dandelion. Speaking of Domino, why the hell did they get a voice actor that sounds exactly like Vesemir to play the narrator that is Dandelion?
The ugliest man alive and the victim of a curse.
Was anybody else confused by this? He sounds nothing like the character in game. As far as dialogue goes in game, there's definitely good writing to the game, but I think there's some technical aspects that really hurt the storytelling capabilities. And by the way, I know it's a 2015 game. I'm mainly just saying this so they can keep it in mind for when they're making future titles. But like the facial expressions are good, but very limited. There's a range of emotions that can be expressed in The Witcher, but none of the extremes can be hit, it seems like. Like nobody can be visibly super sad or angry or super happy and emotional.
Or a barrel of beer.
Boo!
And sometimes the facial expression doesn't match the voice line at all.
I'll subject him to the trial of grasses, but only...
You fucking what?
And this might be my biggest pet peeve in the game. Man, the awkward silences happen way too often. It's like they leave a pause for an anime grunt in between scenes, but they don't make any sound.
Come with me.
And there's definitely certain actions that happen in cutscenes and in combat that make either no sound or a completely unsatisfying one.
What fucking...
Breaking off a story and onto a much more spicier subject, is the romance in this game good? There's some solid character development between these relationships. There's plenty that I like, but here's what I don't like. I feel like in real life, winning over your love interest, not that I know much about that, isn't just about kissing their fucking ass all the time.
Listen, Yen, I'm in love with Triss.
You look beautiful.
Gosh, simping immediately.
I feel like Geralt is this confident, cool, fine with being alone protagonist, but the second Yennefer comes around, I'm only given two options of the way I can talk to her. Option one, f you Yennefer, I hate your f***ing guts.
Quickly, first thing to come to your mind.
We're gonna chuck and die.
Or option two, what was that, my queen? I'll do anything for the most powerful sorceress in the world, the sexiest witch minx, the love interest of my life, Yennefer.
You smell wonderful. God, dude, what? What? No, knock it off.
Could I kiss your ass even more, even when you're being an entitled bitch?
I may be inhumanly beautiful, but I don't have superhuman senses.
What a bitch! I don't know, I just wish I had a little bit more of a spine while winning over Yen or Triss, instead of just simping and having the ladies swoon.
Stay with me,
Geralt, not this again.
please.
We have.
I didn't even. I already blew it with Yen. That's why I'm asking. God, I feel low. I feel low.
I love you.
By the way, if you're wondering, yes, I did simp for Yen the first playthrough, but on my second playthrough, I actually gave Triss a chance, and she's great, but
King Tancred asked me to become his court advisor.
God, that voice is terrible.
The number one complaint I have for this game, and it's kind of extremely important in an open world game, is the movement. There's something about Geralt's movement that just feels delayed and disconnected from my input. Like he moves around like a shark, like once I'm moving in a direction you just can't stop it or naturally turn your body around. There is a pivot mechanic, but it's basically an animation that cuts off your input to turn your character around for a second. And honestly, even the way Geralt runs looks weird to me. Like, moving around in tight spaces and getting caught on geometry is just extra annoying. A personal qualm of mine is, why is Geralt's jump the most violent spaz jump you've ever seen? Just like, and then all of these annoyances are amplified while using Roach. I mean, writing Roach is so bad that she needs her own cutaway where I have longer hair for some reason to talk about how bad it is. I'm on a horse now. Of the things the Witcher 3 Next Gen update decided to fix, horse riding was not one of them.
Damn it. Just get around this.
You still have less control over your horse than the Bullet Bill in Mario Kart. It leads to simple movement adjustments becoming incredibly frustrating. Why is Rockstar seemingly the only open world game developer that actually makes vehicle controls that feel somewhat good? I mean, Roach makes Skyrim horses look bad. Red Dead 1 was made in 2010. Why do these controls made in 2015 feel so terrible?
Run, Roach.
I hate you, Roach, so much. I hate you so much. I want you to die a slow death.
A thing I noticed while playing on stream was I was astounded at how many questions I got about basic mechanics of the game. But then I thought, oh yeah, my first playthrough, I also thought potions were one-time uses and ignored creating them for the first half of the game. Before making the discovery, they're reusable. Before that, I was just eating water the whole game to heal. My point is, I think the game does a pretty poor job explaining their systems like bombs, potions, oils, toxicity, adrenaline points, and stamina. I think that, combined with Geralt's odd movement system, even during combat, are the primary turnoffs for why people stop playing The Witcher early on. I think crafting's fairly easy to get the hang of, except ruins. I always say that wrong. I still don't even know how to make greater ruins without breaking the bank instantly, and honestly, I just don't want to have to Google another thing that's going to increase my power by 2%. Speaking of power, I do think it's hilarious how shooting the crossbow on land is like throwing a pencil at your enemy, but underwater, it's like shooting a 50 cal sniper rifle. The talent tree is switched up a bit, which I'm not really going to get into, but the spin to win, whirl and rend technique is still very much a thing, which I do think is funny, but it's also a pretty boring way to do combat. Now there's also a couple of mini games you can play in The Witcher. One is Gwent, which a lot of people are a fan of. I'm more of a Hearthstone man myself, but pretty much every single character in the game plays Gwent like it's Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2006. And another mini game is like the boxing tournaments, and here's my hot take on fist fighting in The Witcher in general. It sucks. It's a very boring version of combat, and you have to do it a shocking amount of times throughout the story.
Holy fuck.
But anyway, that's all I can really think of for the bad stuff. And I might be missing something, but I took pretty diligent notes throughout my entire gameplay, and for a game made in 2015, for those to be the only complaints is pretty impressive. So let's get on with the good of The Witcher.
Now, as much as I've talked crap about the movement in the game, I really do enjoy the combat in The Witcher 3. And you know, the Night to Remember trailer really captured what it was like early on in The Witcher, where you're fighting these monsters and the fights become so dire and intense. Big monster fights were a difficult challenge where I had to play my cards to my advantage. I'd have to understand my enemy while they beat the shit out of me, until miraculously I find a moment of vulnerability in them and I slay the beast. I'd walk away with a sliver of health feeling exhausted, but remarkably satisfied. Kind of similar to the way I play Elden Ring. I love learning the dance of combat, like when to dodge roll, when to use a quick attack or a strong attack, what potions and poisons to bring to a fight. Like I love going through the bestiary and finding out what the hell kills this thing. Like the first time I fought a werewolf, the fight was like an hour long because it kept regenerating health and I didn't know how to stop it. Until I looked through the bestiary, found out its weakness is cursed oils, left the cave, went and got that recipe, came back and slayed the beast. And I felt really bad about it because it was a really sad story and I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, another thing I really like is the gore. Fighting humans, especially when you're higher level, becomes an absolute bloodbath. And sometimes it definitely gets a little exaggerated, like the bright red blood looks like you just threw a can of paint on somebody. But those little quick time animations, when they make sound, feel so good. And I love how crazy and creepy the monsters are in the game. Like even a pack of drowners looks creepy and they're a blast to cut through. And then there's the really crazy monsters like an Ekimara or a fiend, just walking through a dark forest and all of a sudden this giant wild beast comes at you trying to hypnotize you and pick you up with its laser beams and shake you like a dog. Ray tracing or not, the world is undeniably beautiful. And there's so many well done settings like the forests, the marshes, the islands, the beautiful sunsets, the fog, the winds howling. And I love the way the environment changes around you as you travel through it, from vibrant meadows to grim, dead forests. And once you've beaten the game, there's still so much to do, even excluding DLC. There's question marks all over the map for you to go and explore, and rarely are they the same back to back. It could be a group of bandits, it could be a monster nest, it could be a treasure chest with a map leading to new gear. And then you have the actual side missions that totally avoid the stereotypical fetch quest, and the decisions you make have actual weight and consequences behind them.
Greetings.
Sit with
Be
us.
easy.
You better come with me.
You'll have to kill me first.
Jesus, this
If needs
escalated
must.
quickly.
Take you both on.
I didn't want to kill him.
And later you may find out that you made a mistake thinking you were doing the right thing, and you just have to live with that. The Witcher is just one of those games that immerses you in its experience, and hundreds of hours can go by without you getting tired of it. So yeah, ray tracing is definitely a hard sell, and I think the Witcher team missed some easy opportunities to make the game even better, even further with this update. But is it worth coming back to or playing for the very first time in 2023? Abso-fucking-lutely, dude. This game is amazing. And it's a must-play for any fan of open-world fantasy RPGs. And as a returning player, the next-gen updates are going to enhance your experience and breathe just enough new life into the game for you to have a great time playing through the whole game again. Unless you have ray tracing on and not a $4,000 computer, then it's going to suck pretty bad. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and sorry this one took a minute, but I wanted to upgrade the production value and the creativity, and I thought what better opportunity to do that than with The Witcher 3. So I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Not that I know much about that. Like stuttering over it. I'm a fucking idiot. And I think a lot of us would agree that it's gone down in history as one of the most remarkable video games ever made. Excuse me. Why can't you do casting? And why can't these fucking kids shut up? Whoa! Ah! Ah! Mother Mary! Ah, fuck, my tailbone. In conclusion, my tailbone's broken. I'm fine, I'm fine. That might hurt in the morning, but I'm fine. It's funny, it takes so long to fall. Like, I calculated this is gonna be painful on the way down. I was like, ah!
This is merely my perspective, and that perspective is from a jackass. Energy.
I will say, I taste that. I just crushed my future kids real hard doing that. Oh, Remy, you were so great. Thank you. My hands are frozen.